Okay, Tal, let me know if there's any issues. All right, so we are live. We can go ahead and get started. Chuck, take us away.
Okay, so we're welcoming Carol Wolfe, super top producer Carol Wolfe. Welcome, welcome. Thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So where do we start? I feel like if someone hasn't done
So,
a transaction with you, are they even really in existence? Because you've done so many. Um, where do we start? Can we start with
so
your
we
journey, how you got started?
Sure. So I started in real estate before probably all of you were born, back in the 70s. Anyway, so I started working in a real estate office. It was actually a boutique real estate office in Beverly Hills. And I started out as an office administrator. Prior to that, I had worked as an administrative assistant to different people and different executives, different companies. And I got this job working in this little real estate office. And when I was seeing the agents and how much money they were making selling properties, I decided to get my license. So I went to school, got my license, and then I remember the company Fred Sands, who was a really big company.
Of course.
He had one office at the time, but he was opening 3 new offices. And one of the offices he was opening was in Beverly Hills. So I actually went to that office when it first opened. And I worked there for 4 years and was a top producer there. And then after 4 years, I moved to the Fred Sands, one of the Valley locations. I worked there another 4 years, and that's kind of how I got started.
so you've obviously seen the real estate industry change, the different technology that's come in, and the way people market and really brand themselves. Um, I'm curious to ask you when Zillow came out and Realtor.com came out, and all of a sudden the realtor wasn't as needed in the eyes of the buyer or seller because they had access, which in the past they, in order to find any information, they had to go to a realtor. Um, what have you done at that transition to still stay very relevant? Because you obviously are considered a go-to when it comes to the real estate community. But have you done anything specific to stay relevant at that point in the eyes of the buyers and sellers?
Well, when all of those platforms came out, everybody thought it was going to hurt our industry, but I think it helped our industry. So um, it didn't have any negative effect. But I did, brand myself. Obviously, I think I was one of the very first realtors to have a website. I always tried to be on the forefront of technology and staying up with local trends, and always, studying and taking courses throughout my career so that I can better serve my clients. So I've always done that.
Do
Very good.
you have like a favorite website do you use for real estate? It could be whatever, Facebook or a specific technology or application. It's your favorite that you can't live without it.
Well, I mean, obviously I use Facebook, I use Instagram, all of those platforms. Um, since I started, so much has changed. I mean, when we used to write offers, it was one page, the files were really thin. I mean, things have changed so much over the years. Um, I would say my favorite technology is like DocuSign. I mean, it's really changed how we do business, and doing things virtually. That's changed obviously because of COVID. So, I mean, I've done listing appointments virtually. Um, but the ability to be able to, I mean, in the old days, we used to have to meet with people and have them sign stuff. And then we had faxes, and then we had email. And now DocuSign is great. And I mean, you can train a 95-year-old person to use it, and it just saves so much time to get documents signed. Another program that I've recently started using, which I think is really great, is called Glide. And it's service where you can have your client complete all their disclosure paperwork by sending it to them through the system. And what's great about it is, as they're filling it out, normally you have to sit with them and kind of go through and explain everything. So this way they read the question, and if they have a question, they click on it and explains, and then they fill out all their disclosures, and then you get them back and they're perfect and they're easy to read, and then they get signed through DocuSign. So that's been another big time saver. I've been using that program.
I've never heard of Glide, but I would imagine that that's a huge, I mean, I'm surprised it's taken so long for it to come out, because to sit and explain disclosures it's the worst.
Yeah, check it out. It's actually a free program you can use. And once you start using it, I think you'll like it. Actually, on the MLS, you can do your PED forms through Glide. So if you notice, if you go on any listing that you want to show, if you click on the thing that says, send the PED form through the MLS, it actually completes it, and it sends to your client, and then it gets sent to the listing agent so you can set up a showing. So they've incorporated Glide through the MLS now. So spend time on that.
So you've mentioned obviously with COVID, there's been a lot of changes with having to deal with customers virtually. What has been the major change for you within the business that you've adopted because of COVID that has been yielding really good results?
Well, prior to COVID, we resorted mainly to open houses. So when we had a listing, we would just say, come to our open house. We could shuffle through lots of people. So obviously now we have to have people sign forms, send pre-approval letter, proof of funds. So we're weeding out the non-serious buyers, and we're having to schedule showings at intervals. So on the market's been completely nuts the past few months, and most every listing has been just being parked at the property from morning till night for like days in a row. And I usually have, my daughter works for me, and I have a full-time licensed assistant. So the three of us will schedule showings with 15-minute intervals, and we'll just be parked there, and we just shuffle the people through the house. So, that's very different. Obviously, we, doing showings like that. In some ways, I like it because, like I said, people are having, not every agent is doing this, but, you are required to have the client send the pre-approval or proof of funds before you show the house. So you're weeding out people who really can't afford to look at it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And now you don't have to explain why. Yeah. It's just, it's part of the standard. So, I'm sure you mentor agents. People probably come to you all the time and ask you to mentor them. But what kind of tips do you give newer agents or somebody that maybe wants to join your team that is struggling or just really wants to find a new way to generate business? Do you have any tips that you can share?
Well, I do help people all the time. People come up to me in the office or other agents and ask me for help. I'm always willing to help. So I like helping people. So, I think that basically the thing that works is going back to the basics, just when we can door knocking, cold calling, farming, just all the basic things, farming your sphere, just the way that you pick up, new business. So I would just advise people to do that. I think somebody new starting out, it might be good for them to start on a team. It's, it's so hard to get started these days. There's so much competition.
Yeah.
So.
I've got a question for you. I've got a two-part question for you. One, how long have you been with Rodeo? Okay.
Since 2008. So before I was with Rodeo, I was with Coldwell Banker for 20 years. And the reason I left was because in 2008, when the market was not great, Coldwell Banker decided to close several offices in the Valley. So they closed Woodland Hills, Northridge, Burbank, and Encino. And I was in the Encino office. It was at Ventura and Havenhurst. And since I'm strong in Encino, I needed to be at an Encino company. So that was when I left and went to Rodeo.
So that brings me to my second question. What do you do? I know you do the bus benches. That's just the stuff that everybody sees. But what else do you feel is effective to have that dominance that you have in Encino?
Okay, so it's basically branding yourself. So it started out with a farm, and it was a small farm, and I was just farming the neighborhood where I live, which is Amestoy Estates. I think it's 550 addresses. And then I expanded that to most of Encino. So I farm most of Encino. So people got to know me in Encino because I have the bus benches, because they get my postcards every month, because they drive by my properties and see my listings and my sold signs, because they see me at the Lemley Theater when it was open, because they see me at Encino Little League. I have a banner there. I support them. I also had supported some of the local schools and put banners up at some of the schools. So I've become known in the area.
To say the least. Okay, that's great. That's great.
So
And I mean, even when we were doing open houses, I mean, I do some open houses, and I mean, I would have people come in, and people knew who I was, and they were actually kind of surprised that I was there. So I do know people recognize me and know who I am. People stop me when I'm out, ask, are you Carol Wolfe? So
so
I've got
nowadays
a
with
question for
yeah.
you. I've got a question for you that's without getting political, because we really steer clear from being political here. But because we're so close to an election, how do you see the market, the conditions, the environment in about 30 days or so, regardless on, if this party wins or that party wins? How do you see the market? Because you've been through some elections being in real estate, obviously.
Well, without getting political, I think it will depend on who wins, but I'm not going to, I don't ever discuss politics, and I don't put it on my social media or anything like that. But who I hope will win, I think things will remain positive, and I think interest rates will remain low, and I think the market will be great. I don't
Okay.
see any changes.
and
Okay.
if who you hope
Low inventory. We need inventory.
and if who you hope doesn't win, do you see the opposite effect in the market potentially, or
I
are
hate
we
to
still
say it,
safe?
but probably yes.
Okay. So what is your message now to buyers and sellers that are maybe on the fence because of the election, because of COVID, because of whatever reason, when they're on the fence, but you think that they should make a move? How do you script that to be able to get them over the fence?
Well, I mean, for sellers, I think a lot of my sellers this year have been people leaving LA, one reason or another, moving out. They want to go to another state, be with their grandkids or their kids, or retiring, or what have you. So, and there's been some new construction I've sold. So they just kind of make the decision on their own that they want to sell. As far as buyers go, I've had a few, we do some buyer sales, and, I've had some people that want to move for school system, or, because interest rates are low, things like that.
Okay. And if you were to, predict that our market is going to hopefully continue to go up, do you see the prices continuing to increase, or do you just believe that it will remain strong and basically steady as it is?
Well, I think the prices are unbelievably strong right now. They're really high. So maybe there'll be a little leveling off, but it'll all depend on what happens with inventory. So, right now we have very little inventory. So the sellers are really driving the market. Things are going 100, 150,000 over asking. Many of the listings are, receiving 10 to 20 offers. It's crazy. Not just me, but I'm talking to people all the time, and that seems to be the trend.
And so for maybe people that are all of a sudden getting into a point where they're seeing more production than they expected, and we're seeing a lot of that now, right? Newer agents that have been riding a wave, and with the market booming both on the lending and the real estate side, people are overwhelmed sometimes with production. Do you have any tips on how somebody can either sustain or staff ahead, or what should people do when they get to a point so that they don't hurt their reputation on being able to provide a high level of service?
Well, I mean, if somebody's doing a tremendous amount of business, they should probably have an assistant. I've just always been really good at organizing my time and, managing things. So, and even though I know a lot of agents, they delegate a lot of things to assistants. I pretty much know how to do everything that my assistant knows how to do. So I made it a point to be able to do that. So, I know how to, I write up offers, I write up counters, I do the DocuSigns, I, post on the social media. So, I mean, I know how to do it. And I wanted to be very hands-on. So.
Who would you say is your favorite assistant of all time, though?
My favorite assistant of all time. Well, Michelle was really an assistant. She was an agent on my team. Is that what you were asking?
Kind of. I do have another question regarding the clear cooperation policy and how you're dealing with it. How would you say it's affecting you? Because you've got a lot of your own clients that you can take your deals to. You don't have to expose it. You don't have to solicit it. So how are you dealing with that?
Well, to be honest, I have always been, I always encourage my clients to put it on the market, because if they don't, they never will know if they're leaving money on the table. I know a lot of agents, before that policy, were doing a lot of pockets. I have done a few this year that were properties that I knew a builder would be interested in. So I asked the seller, look, do you want to put it on the market? Or if you get an offer that you like, will you sell it before it goes on the market? So I give them the choice. Most of the time they want to put it on the market, and most of the time they've gotten way over the price. But I have sold a few properties this year that have been never were on the market.
Yeah, so those are the ones that, I mean, I know we're interested in. We're always looking for ones that are not listed, the ones that because we deal with builders who may also have direct access to the MLS, Zillow, Redfin, Trulia, whatever, and it takes us out of the equation. So, and a lot of these builders can get licensed, their wives are licensed all of a sudden. You know how it is.
Yeah, and they have every agent looking for them. So, if I call a builder and tell them about, somebody else already told me about that. So, yeah, they're whoever finds it for them, that's who they'll work with.
Yeah. So, any tips on how to cultivate some of the like listings, and especially dealing with sellers that are a little bit unrealistic? Property's worth $2 million, they want 2.5, they're stuck at 2.5. Is it waiting for them to circle back around after them hiring this agent, that agent, letting the market speak, getting tied up with this person and then coming back to you? Or does the ego get in the way, and how do you avoid all that circle?
Well, I turn down a lot of listings. I mean, if people are completely unrealistic, I don't want to really work with them. I think in this market, everything is selling that's realistically priced is selling right away. So if it's not, it's usually because the price is wrong. So unless they're willing to, face reality and lower the price, within a short period of time, I generally won't take the listing.
That could be a really good reality TV show for real estate. The price is wrong.
I get a lot of listings that were listed before with another agent.
Okay.
And couldn't sell them. Sometimes, it's because by that time they, get worked down, and then by the time you get the listing, they're more realistic. Sometimes it's the timing.
We have two questions, one from Michelle, one from Stacy.
Hi. Do you think, I know that you sometimes do your own spec homes. Do you think right now is a good time to, invest in a flip right now, with the market so high, or would you say to wait?
I don't know, the prices are just so nuts, but who knows? They could be higher next year. I mean, if I saw a good deal, I would go for it. If it
Cool.
can be
Thank
found.
I have a question for you. I work mostly with sellers, but I do work with some buyers, and I get the question all the time from a lot of buyers that with so many people that are getting forbearances or help from stimulus, whatever, that when that runs out, there's going to be potentially a lot more foreclosures and a lot more inventory and things like that. My go-to is typically that if they're still going to be selling at market value because there's still a ton of buyers. What's your outlook on that situation?
You mean so people are waiting for those kind of deals to?
Yeah, like maybe I should wait a couple months. There's going to be a ton of foreclosures and so many more houses on the market, and then prices might drop.
I just sold a foreclosure to a buyer. We just closed escrow last week. I mean, the banks are not stupid. When they acquire a property through foreclosure, they're going to get it evaluated and they're going to put it on the market for the fair market value. And I don't think necessarily, they're going to, it's always been that way with the foreclosures. There's not going to be any like special deals. I
don't mean so much are there going to be special deals. Do you think there's going to be a lot more that comes on the market?
More foreclosures?
Because of people having lost their jobs or forbearances or all that?
I don't really know. It's hard to know what will happen with that. I suppose there will be.
So Carol, where is the vision for your personal brand? Where do you see your brand in 3 years? Is it just continuing to do what you've been doing so well, or is it going somewhere else?
Well, I think I'll just keep up with the trends and kind of just monitor it and see where I need to implement any new marketing venues, see what's out there, sort of play it by ear.
Okay, very good. So in terms of, when you're dealing with both buyers and sellers, and I'm sure you have plenty of these situations where you're able to represent both. What are tips that you can give people to kind of steer away from being biased and trying to help the transaction go through, but still provide the responsibility, the fiduciary responsibility you have to both sides? Do you have any tips? Because it can get difficult, especially when you're in LA and the commissions are so high.
Yeah, and you get a lot of that because when you have listings, you do get a lot of people who call you directly and they want to work with you because they think then that way they're going to get the property.
Right.
So it does happen. I've always been very fair and very ethical, and I've kind of built my reputation on that. And I just I never will disclose to the buyer, what a seller will take or, what it needs to be, in a situation where I've had some listings and I have buyers call me directly to represent them, and there's multiple offers. We put it on a spreadsheet. We show the seller all the offers, and we let them choose who they want to, counter, who they want to accept. My offer, great. If it's not, it's going to be up to the seller to decide.
Okay. I think we should open up the questions because at 2:30, I want to go over some of the off-market opportunities that we've got. Kind of share it with whoever. And if you've got any upcoming off-market, anything that you'd like to share. There's a lot of buyers watching this, and a lot of agents with buyers, and a lot of all types of people watching.
Yeah, I just closed a bunch of escrows, and I don't have I have some things I'm working on, but they're not signed yet, so I never will talk about anything that's not signed.
Okay, once you have it secured, maybe there's a way for us to talk about it next week or something. Because we're trying to take it towards a place where it could also be a hub for people to discuss, off market. It's not necessarily soliciting it, on a website, on Facebook, it's just discussing what we've got. And if we could put something together, great.
Okay.
Awesome. What else?
If anybody has any questions, feel free to either type it in the chat or on social media. We have Tall watching that can bring it up. Until somebody does, if anybody does have, I do want to ask you: do you have any mentors or coaches that you like what they offer in terms of information and knowledge that you would recommend to other agents?
Well, I think about 15 years ago, I did coach for a while. I was at a point in my career where I wanted to take my business to the next level. And so I did hire a coach, and I coached for 1.5 years, and then that was it. But I did learn a lot of good skills and techniques, and so that was really. And I don't even know if he's coaching anymore, but it was.
I was gonna ask if they're still around.
I think he does still coach. He coaches a lot of the top agents on the West Side. His company is called Performance Coaching, and it's Steve Shull. But I mean, there's a lot of really good coaches out there. Just somebody to be accountable to, and so forth. So he kind of helped me, because at that point, maybe it was longer. I don't remember how long ago it was. Maybe it was 20 years ago. I didn't have an assistant, and that was the one thing he said: you got to get an assistant, because I was doing everything myself. So
I feel like that's the first thing mentors and coaches make anybody that's doing well do is to figure out what tasks in any day are you doing that don't make you money.
exactly.
And then how to hand those off.
You need to be in front of the people, and you need to delegate, the stuff to the assistant. But I'm guilty of still doing a lot of the stuff myself, by way of just overseeing things and make sure I'm very, very particular about how things are done. And so I oversee everything. Hard for me to let go of that stuff. And the other kind of skills he helped me with was, fighting for my commission, and, not settling and so forth. So, that was also really good.
So that's a good point that you bring up, and it sparks a question in my mind. Do you ever negotiate your commissions, and what are the exceptions where you potentially would, negotiate down?
I don't negotiate my commission.
Okay.
That a long time ago, but I don't. Once you start doing that, I think you get into a pattern, and then, even on this deal I closed today, it was like, well, why don't you contribute for the washer dryer? It's like, I just don't. And I don't think that my contributing is going to make or break the deal. I think if you have a willing buyer and a willing seller, whenever they want you to pay for something, I don't think that's going to make the deal fall out because of that. I think a lot of people get into a pattern of doing that. So
I've got a question for you. Just being so involved in Encino and just owning that territory, how do you feel when you see these, just absurd numbers? $20 million sale, $14 million sale, $12 million. What does that make you? How do you process that?
yeah, there have been a lot of really high-end sales in Encino lately. And I don't only sell in Encino, I do sell all over, the Valley and parts of the West Side, but my main business is in Encino for sure. There's a few agents who are really, working the builders and the high-end stuff. And, I've done some new construction, but it's not the main part of my business. I sell in all price range, from a low price condo to a multi-million-dollar estate. So
we do have a question that just came in here on YouTube. It's kind of a general question, I guess, but they're asking what have you had any, I'm sure you have, but have you had any major struggles throughout your career specific to the business? And if you could share what that maybe was and how you've overcome it.
Well, some years are better than others. I'm on track this year to, it's going to not be my best year, but one of my best years. But, there are some years where you don't do as much business. I like to travel. And so in the past, like 10 to 12 years, I've been taking a lot of big trips, which is great. I can work remotely and, I have people here who can handle things while I'm away. I would say, one thing is that if you lose a deal or you lose a listing, I get upset, but what I've learned is that I get upset for one day and then I forget about it, because otherwise it'll just make you crazy. If you just think about that one buyer you're working with and it falls through, you're relying so much on that. You have to kind of have a lot of things you're working on and things you're doing so that if one thing falls through, it's not going to make you fall.
Diversify your basket.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So we'll take one more question that just came in, and then I know Chuck wants to move to the next segment. But do you have third-party partnerships, and do you force your customers to use your third-party partnerships like lenders and others to make sure, or do you allow the customer to choose whoever they want for lender, for title, for escrow, things like that?
I never force anything on anybody. A lot of people I work with, well, first of all, I mostly work listings. So, I don't really have occasion to use a lender with listings. So on our buyer sales, I find a lot of people have banking relationships and people that that they want to work with. If they don't have someone, obviously I refer them to a lender. I recommend service people, but I usually give them a choice of a few. As far as escrow and title, I generally use my in-house escrow just because they're in my office, so it's really easy. They do a great job, and the same thing with our affiliate title company. Most of my transactions.
Okay, very good.
Fantastic. There is one more question that's coming in on Instagram asking about getting listings as a new agent. And I think that might have to do also with my question that I ask all the time, is I feel that some new agents could be ambitious, could be, motivated, going out there, knocking on doors, trying to get listings. And if it's a savvy seller, you might tell them, hey, you're not experienced enough, or, appreciate you, I want to, interview other agents. Would you, and do you be open to being able to co-list with someone if someone brings you a listing in your area and have you come in?
Absolutely, and it happens all the time.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, a lot of my business are from real estate agents. I've had real estate agents who are retired and they call me to sell their house. I just sold one. The agent was out of the area, and it was her parents' house in Encino, and so she had me list it. But a lot of new agents, this is the advice I would say is, so if you go on the listing appointment, there's a good chance you're not going to get the listing because the owner's going to think you're new and you're not that experienced. So I would recommend it's better to get half the listing than zero of the listing. So call a good agent that that, you can call me if you want, and I'll go with you, help you get the listing, and you'll learn a lot. You'll learn, everything through the transaction, and that happens a lot. I do get that a lot.
All right, well, you heard it here. So if you have any listings, you're a newer agent, or you just want to have a little bit of credibility behind you, reach out to Carol. She would be willing to help you out and help you get the deal.
Very definitely.
Awesome. So I want to thank you so much for joining us. We're going to be going over some of the off-market inventory that we have. Obviously, if there's anything you want to share on that, you're more than welcome. Or if you want to stay, you're more than welcome. But we always get this question from people for us to share some of the stuff that we have because it goes really quickly. And if I'm sharing it Thursday at 2 p.m. and someone's interested and they want to, it's performance based. So we want to be able to just share it and then, hey, you got 24 hours to make a move.
And before you jump into that, I want to personally thank you, Carol, for taking the time out of your day to join us, share share
pleasure.
some of your insights. It doesn't go unnoticed, so thank you very much. And
Thank you for
Chuck, go
having me.
ahead. Yes, absolutely.
Thank you so much, Carol. All right, so we're gonna go over a couple of off-market opportunities that we have. I'm not gonna give all the details, just enough to see if if someone's interested.
And if someone's interested, they can reach out to you.
Yeah. We've got a property in Sherman Oaks on Greenbush. It's a 7,200 square foot lot, 1,900 square foot home, off market, of course, for $1,350,000. The exit on it is 2.5, and it's going to come with plans. RTI for 3,400 square foot new construction. So that's one. If you've got a builder looking for new construction, RTI that's not on the market, reach out to me. Chuck at lafixers.com. We've got another one on Morrison, also in Sherman Oaks. It's a 4+3, 2,300 square foot home on a 7,100 square foot lot. The framing is done. The exit's going to be 1.9. You can pick it up for $1,475,000. And then we've got, those are two Sherman Oaks ones. I've got another Sherman Oaks one, also on Morrison. It's a cosmetic fixer. It's a 2,500 square foot house, 4 bedrooms, 4 bath, plus a den, plus a pool, gated, new roof, copper plumbing, new central air. You can pick it up for $1,275,000. The exit on it is $1,750,000. And then last but not least, we've got 5 acres in Tarzana. This is an approved short sale. The bank has owned $3.1 million, and we're able to deliver this for $1,675,000. It's 5 acres with 360-degree views, multiple flat pads. You can build a 14,000 square foot compound that'll sell for about $10 million. It'll be a record breaker in Tarzana because it is the largest parcel, the largest lot there. If anyone's interested, again, reach out to me, Chuck at lafixers.com. And the price on that is $1,675,000. It was listed for 2.5, was reduced to 2.2, and we're delivering it right now for pennies on the dollar.
So Chuck, do you have, and I'm sure the answer is yes, but I'm pointing it out here. So maybe you can list the link to the folder that has all the plans and the images on the first one that you said was RTI, and then some of the other ones. And then I think maybe one thing that could be very helpful is when we start presenting these deals, we can also discuss a little bit of analyzing it, both from an investor perspective and from a finance perspective, and see what we can do to package it up with some, especially something that's in the middle of framing. That's going to be very difficult to get financing on, but there are creative ways. So being able to package it up and really provide some kind of a turnkey, maybe we can do a segment on that and show people how to analyze these deals a little bit more in depth.
Yeah, maybe we can do that next week. I think next week we're going to have Nancy. She's the president of the SRAR, president of the board. She'll be joining us. So maybe towards the end, we'll do some underwriting on these deals. I'll throw all of these deals on lafixers.com. I'll update the list in a couple of minutes when we get off. And sir? Oh yeah, we've got another. It's not a fixer. It's a fully done house in Culver City for 2.99.
It's a 4 bedroom, 4 bathroom new construction house with a 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom ADU and a pool in the Culver City Arts District. It's going to be done in about 2.5, 3 weeks, and it can very easily be sold prior to going on the market. And it's going to be listed for $2,999,000.
And by the way, anything that we discuss here on the off-market stuff, it's all of our listings or things that we are direct. There's no daisy chain. There's no, I got to call this guy and call this guy. We are direct. So if anyone is interested in any one of those, please reach out, chuck@lafixers.com. Plus, you can see it on lafixers.com. There's an inventory link in there. I'm going to update it in about 10, 15 minutes. What else did we miss? What else did we do?
I think we're good. I think yeah, we're right on cue, right on time. I'll take this opportunity again to thank you, Carol, for staying on and sharing with us. And everyone else will be here, same place, same time next week, Thursday, 2 o'clock. We'll have a speaker. We'll have some more deals that we can discuss. We'll potentially underwrite some deals live so you can see how to analyze it from behind the scenes. And you can follow us either on Facebook, on YouTube, now apparently on Instagram as well. So hope to see you all here again next Thursday, 2 o'clock.
Fantastic. Thank you all.
Thank
Be
you.
well. Have a great day.